my metabolic age go down
Most likely it will, most definitely. Hello everybody, thank you for being here tonight. We are on our week number 9 of our In.Form transformation journey. And tonight we have got a wonderfully exciting topic. We're going to talk about stress and how stress is very, very much connected to our brain and our gut that work together synergistically, how each one pulls and gives with the other one. We're going to talk about how to manage stress and make sure that we can manage our stress in a way that it doesn't like overtake all of our good efforts of eating right and exercising, drinking our water, doing the things that we should be doing. The one thing I find really interesting about stress is it has such a great impact on our body that for many people that I've worked with over the years, they may eat right, drink their water, get their exercise in, live a healthy lifestyle, but yet if they're not able to manage their stress in a healthy way, it can actually sabotage their goals at having a healthier body, just because stress in of itself can really overtake some of those good things we do for ourselves. So it's very important that we really embrace the understanding of stress management and what we can do for ourselves to regulate that in a way that doesn't affect all the healthy things that we're doing in this class and beyond. Tonight we're also I'm going to share some measurements that we've been doing. So we have like 8 weeks of measurements for I think 8 different people. So I'll be sharing the results on that, so we kind of have an idea what the class has been doing. We're going to talk a little bit more about last week from the emotions, the emotional world of eating. We're going to just discuss a few more things. I really felt after last week that I felt like I was really led to share more information and just to really maybe do some repetition on some of that module, because I think that it's really applicable to this particular group, not just tonight's group, but last night's group also. And so I'm going to cover some emotional stuff just a little bit also, especially with our words and our thoughts and things like that. Tonight we're going to have a mango cream smoothie. We're going to use some fresh mangoes. We're also going to use coconut oil to get some healthy fat in, and also, of course, I don't know if you guys know that coconut oil in of itself also helps with the metabolism of the thyroid as well. So it actually helps with that. So coconut oil is a really good add to your smoothies. And I think that's pretty much everything we're going to be covering tonight. So when we talk about measurements real quick, out of 8 people, we lost a total of 43 7/8 inches of 8 people, which put us at an average of 5.5 inches per person over an 8-week time period. I thought that was a really fantastic number, so I want everybody to give yourselves applause.
Looking good, everybody.
Doing good, moving in the right direction. Moving in the right direction, most definitely. So this is something too I like to reinforce at this time. I know a lot of us are still watching the scale, still watching the weight. The weight is important, but it's not as important as the inches are. When you can actually look and see, well, hey, maybe I've only lost a couple of pounds, but I've lost, 5 inches. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'd rather have the 5 inches gone than more weight, and still have the same measurements going on. But just a couple of, like Sarah in our group that's with us tonight, she lost over 4 inches. Nice job, Sarah. Way to go. And then Tom, you lost over 5 inches.
Wow.
In 8 weeks. So that's wonderful. Nice job, you guys.
Ready to play golf?
What's that?
I think he's ready to play golf.
Yeah, there you go. Let's hope so. So keep on moving. I will tell you that if you're not as happy with your own inches lost, one of the keys to that is exercise. Exercise will really help to tone down those inches. So if you're wanting to lose more inches, or you want to keep going, you're already in a good roll, exercise will help. And it doesn't mean you have to go out and lose your breath and get all sweaty. It just means you need to move your body consistently and do everything you can to get more steps in. As we've talked about before, parking at the end of the parking lot when you go to the grocery store, or go to the mall, or wherever you go. Get more steps in every time you can. If you have an option for stairs, take the option for stairs instead of the escalator or the elevator. The more you can put steps in, it's amazing how much more will help with your inches lost and your metabolic age as well. So I want to revisit emotions a little bit from last week, but first of all, before I do that, did anybody get a chance to like really work on checking their emotional status every time they ate to see if they were in an emotionally charged eating situation, or if they were just eating because it was the right time to eat? Did anybody get a chance to check on that a little bit? Evaluate?
Or boredom eating.
I get that. I said, I wasn't hungry today.
Boredom eating, yep. Good. Well, want to make sure we continue to check that, because the more awareness we can have about ourselves and how we function, then it's easier for us to make those changes for ourselves and be more in control of our own health. So I want to make sure everybody continues to really check your emotional status. So one other thing that we talked about last week is we talked about how optimal health is the center of the components of physical health, emotional health, spiritual health, and mental health, okay? It is a component of all of these things. We can't be really strong in one area and expect to be optimally healthy if the other areas are not being addressed or they're not being nurtured in one way, shape, or form. Like for instance, if you've got a message that you're giving to the world, and I know several of you here do, you're out there giving a message. If you're not taking care of yourself physically, it makes it hard for you to do what you need to do from a spiritual aspect, right? If you have a job that really takes a lot of mental focus, maybe you're figuring numbers, architecture, I mean, whatever it is, but you've got to really put a lot of mental focus into that. If you're not taking care of yourself physically by eating the right things and exercising, and maybe you're not taking care of yourself from an emotional standpoint, you let your emotions kind of get in the way of the mental focus, it's hard to do your job, right? So these are just some examples that I want to make sure that I bring out to you. It's very important that we're constantly aware that optimal health is just not one of these things. In this class here, we're primarily focusing on the physical. Eating at the proper times, eating the proper foods, getting the supplements in, you know, doing all of those things. But now as we move further into this 13-week transformation, we're looking at the mental and the emotional sides. We're looking at some of these other areas that affect that optimal health in the middle. So don't let this leave your eyesight, okay? You want to make sure that you're continually remembering that all of these things work synergistically together to create optimal health for you. And each one will get stronger as other ones are balanced out and nurtured as well. So, any questions? All right. So the other thing that I was really hitting hard on last week is thoughts plus words equal actions. And I want to review that again real quick, make sure that everybody has a full understanding of that, maybe bring a couple more things that I didn't bring last week. But I thought it was really interesting that we went and did some homeschool shopping for some books, and bought a poster at Mardell's, and we ended up buying the poster and putting it on our wall. And so I'm going to share it with you guys. This is what it said. Watch your thoughts, they become words. Watch your words, because they become actions. Watch your actions, because they become habits. Watch your habits, because they become your character. Watch your character, because it becomes your destiny. So as we visited last week, thought plus word equals action. This whole thing takes it even further than that. I was talking about how we kind of create our own reality. We create our own environment, the things that are around us, the feelings and the emotions, and even some of the physical things as well. And we do this with thoughts and words. And this fully lines it out. So if you're not happy with something in your external environment, you need to really go back internally and find out what's going on to create that external environment that you're not comfortable with, all right, or that you don't want or you don't want to own. So going back to this thought, word, action is very, very important moving forward. If we say things like, I have a hard time losing weight, or it's just too hard to eat healthy all the time. If you say those things, that's what it's going to be. That's what's going to happen. It's going to be hard to eat healthy all the time. It's going to continue to be hard to lose weight. But if you can change that to, every day I'm getting healthier and I'm doing better about eating healthier. You can just change that around. And you're not lying, Because if you're focusing on it, most likely you're going to make a step that very same day when you get your water in, or you get your protein in the morning, that actually is leading you to that. So we need to really watch the context in the way we put our words out there. We also don't want to use self-defeating words like, well, I'm going to try and eat healthy this week. What does the word try imply? You might not do it. You might fail. Or what about I can't? We have a saying in our house, can't is a dead word. We don't use the word can't.
You say won't?
Yes.
That would be me.
Yes, as a parent of 5 children, there's a lot of I won't do that. But I do focus with that thought, Tom, on saying what we will do or what we do want to have happen. I was sitting next to a lady tonight at the homeschool volleyball thing while Kelly was getting practice on, and what did she say? She said, I can't seem to do something. And it was funny, she was asking me about what our class was about tonight, and it was about stress, and I was telling her it was about stress, and we were going to talk a little bit about our words. And right after that, she said, well, I just can't do that, or can't do this. And it had nothing to do with our conversation, but I was like, I just sitting there going, wow. You know, but she's literally limiting herself when she says she can't. You know, she's literally, so instead of saying, I'm trying to eat healthy this week, I am going to eat healthier this week. So really watch those little words, because those little tiny words, they may be tiny little words, but words are important, right? The word is important. So if the word is important, how can we not think that words are not important? They are. There's an energy or a vibration or a reflection of that word that comes off of our tongue and goes out beyond us. And that energy or that vibration of that word, right, is what's going to help create our reality and create what's going on. So just really want you guys to really think about that and continue to really look at what you're saying. You know, really create what you want in your lives. Focus on saying things that you want, not things that you don't want. I actually don't use the word want a whole lot. Because want also to me kind of implies, well, I want it, but I'm not going to get it. You know. So I usually say if I want something, I'll say I would like to have. You know, because that like is more positive. You know, it doesn't really create a negative vibration to it. So anyway, it's just something I want you guys to think about as you move forward, just as kind of a recap from last week. Anybody have any questions or thoughts on any of that? Anyone? We're all good? Nobody wants to say anything? Concerned about the words?
Might be wrong.
All right. So welcome to week 9, dealing with stress. So first of all, I want to ask you guys, when you hear the word stress, what do you think of? When you hear the word stress, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Anyone?
Pressure cooker.
Pressure cooker.
That's my job.
Do you mean from a physical stance, or you mean just from a feeling?
From physical.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What else? Work. Stress equals work, yeah. Can. What else? Anybody else? Kathy?
Dealing with people.
Thank you. Thank you. I was going to tell on somebody from last night because somebody else said that last night.
Really?
She just sat there, she goes, people. I was like, okay. But yeah, definitely that can be seen as stress. Anybody have any other thoughts on stress? Y'all back there? Anybody?
My life.
My life? Yeah, well, you know,
I would say chronic.
chronic, good.
Yeah, when it's every day.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that can be related to stress. But the next question I have for you is does stress choose you, or do you choose stress? Any thoughts? Does stress choose you, or do you choose stress?
Sometimes it chooses you, sometimes you choose it.
Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
You have to learn to say no.
Set boundaries? Yes. Anything else? everybody gets quiet. Is stress the question she's asking us? For the most part, we choose stress. There is a small part of it coming along and we don't necessarily see it coming. There are situations that happen in our lives where stress is induced and we didn't necessarily bring it in. But for the most part, we decide how we want to look at a situation, and we decide how we want to put that in context. And we need to learn how to create boundaries, as Sarah had said, so that way we know where we need to go and where we don't need to go. Perfect example was me yesterday. So our family did something yesterday that I normally would never do when I have a class. We went to the city. Of course, I was all like, we're gonna be back on time, gotta do this, gotta do that, you know. Anyway, I kind of knew at the beginning of all of it that, oh, this might be stressful, Shar. And, you know, it's just too much. You know your limits. You know that when you are focused on something that you've got to keep it down to only accomplishing a couple of things a day. Big, you know. And that's what keeps you even. Well, I just threw myself off. And so I learned a lesson, which is great. I'm grateful for the situation because I know I'll never do that again. It's just too stressful. And there's no reason for me to choose that. You see what I'm saying? There's no reason for me to choose that when I know my boundaries are not going to serve me being the best that I possibly can be with what I love to do, which was stand up here and speak with you folks. So my point being is that we've really got to look at what kind of things stress us out. So if it's work that stresses us out, or if it's other people that stress us out, we need to look at what that looks like for us and what is it about that stresses us out. That doesn't mean we have to quit our job necessarily. It just may mean we need to look at it from a different angle, or we need to set boundaries within that if we're being asked to do more than what we should be doing, type of thing. You know, or whatever that may be. We just need to be able to look at that and find a healthy way to realize and to utilize that. And on the other hand, stress can be helpful too. I'm not saying get rid of all stress. Because I think if we didn't have any stress at all, we'd all just be like, okay, what do we do, you know? You know, it'd be boring, yeah, you know. Some of us like thrive on stress to a certain degree. But there is a limit for everybody. Some of us can handle more, some of us can handle less. Some of us it drives us, some of us it just makes us immobile. Don't want to do anything, which is how I felt today. After being stressed yesterday, I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to homeschool, I don't want to cook big meals, I don't want anything. All I wanted to do was just wait for class. Seriously, I wanted to come to class. But that's all I wanted to do. I didn't want to do anything else. I felt like, okay. So, point being, we just really need to find our boundaries with stress. We need to find that gauge. We need to find out what creates more stress in our lives and find ways to manage that. Either change the situation, change our words with the situation, change our thoughts with the situation, change the way we look at it, step outside the box of it, whatever it is, so that way we don't look at the situation as stress, either because we've changed it or we're looking at it from a different angle. Make sense? So page number 69 tells us dealing with stress. The mind and body connection is important in regulating your mood and your behavior. We'll be showing you ways to limit your situational anxiety and cortisol levels to help you stay on track, because heightened cortisol levels, which will increase your cravings for high fat and high sugary foods. Relaxing activities and bedtime routines is something else we're going to discuss a little bit tonight too, because sleep is extremely important, and we're going to cover that tonight. Page number 70, the mind-body connection. When you are born, your brain and gut develop from the very same tissue. So as your body is in utero and it's actually being formed, the same tissue that forms the brain and forms the gut is the same tissue. It's not like you have gut cells and you have brain cells. They're actually the same type of tissue. In these early stages, the colonization of gut bacteria that regulates the development of hormones that affect your mood, sleep, and a variety of other functions are taking place. So early on, our gut bacteria is already being established. And it's helping with the regulation of our hormones because, as most of you probably know, a baby in utero has got a high level of hormones running through their body. Hormones are actually the process of developing that child into whatever gender they're to be. Your body and your mind stay connected closely throughout your whole entire life. There is a constant give and take between the mind, or the brain rather, and the gut. If you have stinking thinking in your brain, bad attitude, or allowing stress to hit you, then what happens to the gut? The gut's affected. How many of you ever experienced stress and then you've had to run to the bathroom? You don't have to raise your head if you don't want to. Or raise them all. But seriously, why does that happen? It's not because you just ate something bad, right? It's because literally that stress triggered something in your brain that made your gut go, uh-oh, I don't want to handle it. And it gives you a reason to get out of the stress too, kind of temporarily, right? Especially if it's with somebody. But your brain and your gut connection is always a two-way street. If you eat something bad, or eat something that's not so healthy, eat a bunch of sugar, and it literally affects the way you think. You can't focus as much. Your memory may not quite be there. Your blood sugars start going up and down, trying to regulate, and you're just kind of scattered. And then you create the same routine over and over and over again, because then you eat the sugar, you get a little instant high, you're focused for just a couple minutes, then you're unfocused, and then you need more energy, and then you eat more sugar, and then you start that vicious cycle with your blood sugars. So when you don't do things healthy for your gut, it's going to affect your brain. You're not going to be able to function as properly as you should in your brain. Probiotic strains and a healthy diet can help you support your gut. But it's also important to understand the glands and hormones that are involved in the brain-gut connection. So we can eat healthy all day long, but if we're not going to be healthy in our brains and work on dealing with stress, then it's not going to get us as far. They are likely responsible for many of your worst habits, which is the glands and the hormones that are involved in the brain-gut connection. So we're going to talk about cortisol real quick, the cause of overeating. It goes beyond willpower and bad habits. Yes, addiction experts agree that compulsive behavior is actually the result of key hormones that are created as an instinctual response to stress. So we've got a little diagram here at the bottom of this page that literally tells us what happens when stress is induced into our environment or our lives. First, stress causes in your hypothalamus, which is one of the glands in your brain, what it does is it secretes hormones in your brain. This causes the pituitary gland, which is another gland in the brain, to release another hormone called ACTH for short, and it stimulates the production of that. That ACTH then flows through your bloodstream and heads to the adrenal glands, which sit right here on top of your kidneys, the small little round things that sit right there on top of your kidneys. Gives the adrenals a message, and then what the adrenals do is then the adrenals release cortisol. Cortisol has an instant gratification type of response, especially when there's stress. You know how sometimes when we're stressed we want to eat because we want to deal with the stress somehow, or we want to do something else to reward ourselves. We want to go out shopping, all sorts of things we do to like reward ourselves. This is the kind of idea that this is following. This cortisol that comes from the adrenal glands then goes back to the brain's reward center, and increases levels of insulin in the bloodstream. So you've not eaten any sugar to increase the insulin being released from the pancreas, but you've stressed out, and that in of itself has increased your insulin all on its own without even having any sugar. When this happens, it stimulates our desire for high fat and high sugary foods. And that's when we want to eat, for most of us. There's a small portion of us that don't, but we'll talk about that in a moment. So you can see how this cycle here can continue and can cause us to literally do things that we wouldn't normally do if we weren't in a stressful situation. Remember in week 4, we talked about how the body is already preparing gastric juices and enzymes to start being released even before you put it in your mouth? Just like even the thought of food or knowing you're going to eat something, the body already knew to prepare for that. This is the same thing. Stress happens to us externally, but then it gets internalized just because of the perception of what's going on. And it literally affects us from an insulin and hormonal standpoint. Page number 71. We need to cut down on the cortisol, not the calories. So even people who lose their appetites in times of stress, which would be yours truly, I would prefer not to eat at all when I'm stressed. Don't even introduce food. It makes me feel like I want to throw up. If I'm highly stressed, I don't even want to eat. Today I struggled. I made myself eat a big old salad before I came. But I can't tell you how much it took me to talk myself into it. Even though I know it's the right thing to do, but I was just feeling stressed from yesterday. And I was working myself out of it. I feel a lot better afterwards, believe it or not. My gut's happier, right? But a lot of people will lose their appetites when they have this cortisol reaction happen. These people are likely to experience weight gain over due time due to cortisol. So this is where some of those people say, well, I don't eat very much, but yet I gain weight. This is one of the reasons why, is because the cortisol levels that are introduced due to the stress they're experiencing. They may lose some weight like short term, but it's not a long-term situation. Having continual stress is not a long-term situation to your health. And then of course, when we don't eat, our body perceives this as starvation. And when our body perceives it as starvation, then we got more stress because our body is now stressed. Now the stress is not just external, now it's internal because our body's stressed because if things were going into famine. And what does it do? It produces more cortisol and the cycle continues. Does that make sense? So we really got to look at how we handle these things before they even come into our perception and how we're going to manage them. And being sure that we are handling it in a way that's best suited for our bodies. So the cortisol formula is being talked about at the bottom of 71. Nature's cortisol formula features a specific herb called relora, and it helps the body manage stress and maintain cortisol levels already within normal range. So for those people who are high stress and have are working into managing their stress better, cortisol formula would be very helpful for them. It also has DHEA in it, which is a hormone precursor that helps with balancing hormones from the brain aspect. And then we've also got L-theanine. And of course, L-theanine is an amino acid that actually helps us with thinking straight, with helping us be clear in our brain. So I'll give you guys a handout on nature's cortisol formula real quick. Let's see. Give you guys 3, so you can pass 2 of those back if you would. And you guys can learn a little bit more about nature's cortisol formula. You want a blank page there? Gary. Yes, it does help. Well, because cortisol is closely related to insulin level. So it's automatically going to help with your blood sugar levels. Because if you're somebody like me who gets high stress, doesn't want to eat, but then my insulin goes up, but then my insulin drops right back down and I'm low blood sugar. I mean, and I didn't even eat anything. But having a balanced cortisol level will help those insulin levels not be so affected by the outside situational stress and anxiety that's happening on the outside. Where the berberine kind of works more internally. The cortisol works more externally, so to speak.
Is there any kind of side effects to this?
Cortisol? No, not that I am aware of. I've been using cortisol formula for probably about 18, not personally, but with clients for about 18 years. But I use it for those people, like I said, who are really high stress. That just, I mean, they just walk around like this, you know.
So anxiety, being anxious.
Yeah, anxiety I would lean more towards anxiousness, but just like high stress. Anxiety and anxiousness, those two are more for like, you know, really nervous irritability, or just really nervous, on edge, almost having thoughts of, you know, things, everything doom and gloom, you know, that kind of a deal. This is just stress. Yeah, this is just stress, which is a little different than that. I mean, they do overlap, but the anxious stress is more for anxiety, panic attacks, things along that line. Cortisol is more for just that stress and just handling that stress, so that way you're making the right choices as you're working on creating a better balanced stress level in your environment. Another one that I want to give to you guys is not in your book. This has always been one of my favorite products, and I'll give you guys a sample of this as well. And it's called Nutricalm. And Nutricalm is a natural herbal form. One for each, there you go. And it's got lots of B vitamins in it, lots of C vitamins in it. And when we are stressed, we rapidly lose a lot of B vitamins. Stress and B vitamins work hand in hand. When we get stressed, our body just lets go of all the B vitamins, which are water soluble. Okay? So Nutricalm helps us to calm down, get our B's in and our C's in, and get that balanced out. And you can use it very frequently. It will make your urine turn bright yellow, so I will tell you that up front, because that's the B vitamins that you don't use that are excreted through the urine in the form of the yellow. But Nutricalm is excellent. It's just everyday basic stress. You know, just working on handling that. I used it a lot in the store with women who were premenopausal and menopausal. It was one of my top sellers for that particular gender group at that time, just because it really helped to negate. It just kind of takes the edge off the stress. It just kind of helps you maybe think a little bit clearer, so to speak. So Nutricalm is definitely something that I would have you guys take a look at and see what you thought. There you go. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about before we move on in the manual is one of the quotes I have up here. The American paradigm. Eat, drink, whatever you want, but being American is what's going to kill you. What I mean by this is that, there again, you can eat healthy, get your exercise, get your water in, but if you're overly stressed, that's what can really take you out. When you think about the other countries, especially over in Europe, the way that they look at work and the way that they look at stressing and the way that they work at just life in general is way different than we look at it in our particular country. In our particular country, we're told from just little ones that you gotta work hard, work hard, work hard, work hard. And I'm not saying you don't gotta work hard. I mean, we do have to work hard, but there's a limit to that, to where that takes over your whole entire life and you don't even enjoy your life. Or when we're trying to keep up with the Joneses down the street, or we're trying to keep up with a bunch of debts, or we're trying to, anyways, we're trying to focus ourselves on physical things. And then that stresses our body because we're wanting to purchase this, or that, or get out of this debt or that debt or whatever it is. The point being is that we have a maladaptive response to stress in our society. We kind of stress and we think we have to do more. Most of us who stress, we think we got to do more. Because we're stressed, we got to do more. We're stressed because, we got this bill, and this bill due. So now we got to do more, right? Or we're stressed because this child needs this child needs that, so we got to do more, we got to do more. When sometimes, you really got to step back and think about, okay, how is this helping you? How is this managing your stress? Is anybody here aware of how long people over in Europe take a holiday for, a vacation for?
A month.
A month, and sometimes 2 months. They don't just get a week every year. Here you go, here's your 5 days. Travel across the country and back, 7 days, and be ready to go to work again. I mean, they look at enjoying their lives and relaxing. How many of them literally go to the market every day after work, because they're not working 10-hour shifts, but they go to the market after work, buy their food and make food and sit and enjoy themselves, enjoy their fun time with their family. I mean, it's normal. I mean, how else can you drink wine and eat cheese and not have the same cardiovascular issues that we do in our country? It's not the wine and the cheese. It's the way that they perceive their environment, how they stress themselves out or don't stress themselves out. It's just a different way that they look at things. So I like to bring this up because it's so easy to be like, oh, well, they're doing it. Well, they're doing it right next door to it, you know, type of thing. When in reality, what they're doing it, but does that mean it's right? Does it mean it's healthy for you? You know, are you taking on more than what you really should and you can? Because it really isn't life to be enjoyed at some level. I mean, we're not here to be all just like, we're here to build relationships and to learn and to connect. And so looking at that from that aspect, I think will help you understand a little bit more about what I'm talking about in this particular quote. Because we just got to learn, we got to back down sometimes. Sometimes you just got to say no. Sometimes you just got to say, you know what, I got my plate full. My plate's full. And nobody needs to know how full your plate is. Right? You know, sometimes I think we get way too much information because we're trying to create an excuse for ourselves. And why would we create an excuse for ourselves when it's just we're here to be healthy. We're here to be strong. How can we spread the word if we're not healthy ourselves? How can you be a caregiver if you don't take care of yourself and you're healthy yourself? Right? How can you do that? How can you be a mom of children and not take care of yourself, but yet still give them the best? Something has to be acknowledged within that whole sequence. So, anyways, wanted to show that to you guys real quick. All right, let's go to sleep. 72. More sleep, less stress. It should be made a priority in your weight management program. Studies show that sleep deprivation with occasional stress can affect your blood sugar balance, your ability to manage your appetite, and your leptin levels. Leptin is a hormone. Leptin is a hormone that's only produced when you are sleeping in a deep sleep, an REM sleep. And what does leptin do? As a hormone, it suppresses the desire to eat or overeat, stimulates your metabolic rate, so you actually are burning more calories, and helps you with sustained energy levels in the body. And subsequent, when you overeat or increase your fructose consumption, which is a natural form of sugar in fruit, right? You can actually become resistant to leptin. So if you're not sleeping well and you're eating a lot of fructose, where's your leptin levels at? You don't have any. They don't exist. So it's very important that we're looking at our sleep and we're looking at understanding what happens. Something else that's not in this book. What we've got to remember is that when our body is sleeping and resting, our brain is not sleeping. In fact, our brain is more active when we're sleeping than it is during the day. I'll say that again. Your brain is more active while you're sleeping at night than it is during the day. We've already discussed in the past that when you sleep, your body is maintaining tissues, repairing tissues, helping get over maybe a recent illness, anything like that. Your body's in a state of repair and regrowth, right? Has anybody ever had any children and they wake up in the morning and you literally think to yourself, oh my goodness, you grew overnight? They literally do. Children grow overnight. That's what their bodies do. While they're sleeping, their bodies are sleeping, they're growing. Same thing with us as adults. Our bodies are not necessarily growing, but they're repairing and they're maintaining all the things that need to be done. We're like in the shop. It's like when you put your car in the shop. Well, this is a good one. Never used this one before. Yay. I mean, when you take your car in the shop, are you running around town with it? No. Because they're repairing something. Changing out hoses, putting on brakes, changing the oil, whatever they're doing, right? That has to happen. The vehicle has to be at rest for them to do that. Your vehicle has to be at rest also for you to repair and maintain. All right? But the other thing that happens that's really important is your brain is detoxing. So we know we got to detox our gut, but do we know that we got to detox our brain too? That's literally what our body is doing when we are our brain is doing specifically when we're sleeping at night. We have this wonderful system that goes on in the brain that crosses through into the blood-brain barrier called the glymphatic system. Anybody ever heard of lymphatic system? This is glymphatic system. And the lymphatic system basically refers to the brain, which is draining out toxicity in the brain. And these looks like little rivers or little creeks. You know, they've got this little passageway that these toxins are pushed out from the brain while you sleep at night, back out into the blood-brain barrier, so that those materials can be picked up and detoxed out of the body. But your body's not going to do that if you're not in a deep sleep. If you're laying down and you're just kind of in la-la land, in between dream world, in between real world, you're not detoxing your brain. You have to have full REM sleep for your brain to detox. I was working with a lady in San Antonio that was experiencing seizures, and they were really recent seizures that had only been happening for about a year when I first started working with her. I started talking to her a little bit more about her lifestyle and things that were going on with her, and I realized that she hadn't been sleeping very well. And if you're not sleeping very well and you're not detoxing your brain, then things can go a little haywire during the day. And she was experiencing more seizures. Once we got her to sleep more and get more peaceful long-term sleep, I mean, she was getting up like 3-4 times at night to go to the bathroom, and then she was only laying down for like 7 hours, but still was getting up all those times. But when we got her more sleep, we noticed that the seizures decreased, because that brain wasn't so full of toxins and it was being allowed to actually detox. Same thing with our gut. If we feed our gut a bunch of sugary, high-fat, chemically laden foods, then it bloats up, and it doesn't feel very well, and we got digestive issues. Things happen, right? Same thing happens in our brain. We just don't really realize it. So these are the reasons why it's so important to get adequate amounts of sleep. Some people would say, sleep is overrated. I don't believe that. My former husband used to say, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I've always been a sleeper, and I was like, I don't know about that. I always kind of scratched my head on that one. I wasn't really sure about that. But literally, you need to sleep to be healthy and active as you are alive and healthy on this earth. So let's talk about the A to Z's of Z's. Follow these simple tips for a better night's sleep. First of all, we need to create a regular bedtime routine. If you are not sleeping well and or you are not falling asleep well, it is essential this week that you focus on creating a regular bedtime routine. About an hour before you plan on hitting the sheets and wanting to be, in sleepy dreamland, you need to start a routine. Whether that's taking a relaxing bath, whether that's starting to read a book, turning off the cell phone, turning off the TV, turning off the computer, turning off the electromagnetic energy that's going on in your house. Because that also will affect your sleep, and I'll talk about that more in a moment. But you need to kind of find some kind of a routine. We've talked a couple different times about how the body works as a time clock. Certain things that happen at certain times. That's why most of us eliminate at a certain time of the day. That's just our body's time clock. Our liver basically does most of its detoxing between 4 and 5 a.m. in the morning. That's just when it does it, while you're sleeping. Okay? So what you do is you set a time clock for your body to realize you're going to go to sleep. So let's say, for instance, you're going to work on starting a bath an hour before you go to bed. After a couple of weeks of doing that consistently, at the same time, by the way, you don't want to make it all over the place. You want to try and make it, within, I would say within a half hour or so of itself at all possible. What's going to happen after a couple of weeks is you're going to go turn on the faucet to run your bath water, and your body will instantly be signaled that, hey, guess what? It's time to shut down. We're getting ready for bed. And your body will start to check in and start going through that process because you've created a routine. You've created a time clock for that body. But it actually will kick in that way. So creating a regular bed routine is really important if you're not sleeping well and or not going to sleep easily. Make sure the room is quiet and dark. No television, computer, or cell phone. So the electromagnetic energy that flows through these devices is very disruptive to our brain waves. Very disruptive. We're constantly inundated with them all day long, but that's one of the last things you want to allow your brain to be inundated with at night while you sleep. I've actually seen studies and talked to people who have noticed that they are not sleeping well. They go outside and they see high wires literally running above their bed where they sleep at. In fact, my lady from San Antonio that I was working with on sleeping more when they had the seizures, she noticed that when she would move to a different room in the house, because we talked about this as a possible cause, that she slept better. And it was because it was in a completely different side of the house from where the electrical wires were running in her house. We are very sensitive to these things. Some of us more, some of us less. But if you need to have a cell phone for your alarm clock, and if it's possible, at least just shut down the cellular data. Shut down anything that would create that consistent electromagnetic wave going through. And if at all possible, sleep with that cell phone at least 8 feet from your head. On top of that. But you shouldn't have a computer, you shouldn't have a TV in your room, if at all possible, if you're trying to get some sleep. Because even sitting in front of the TV and going to bed can keep us out of the patterns that need to happen. I mean, how many times you go and you watch something on TV and then you go and you dream something similar to what you watched on TV? Because you just programmed your head. But if you can program your head with a relaxing bath, shutting down all the electromagnetic activity that you can, your body will actually move into doing what it needs to do more easily while you sleep at night. Make sense? Wi-Fi is another one. I did an experiment based off of a friend of mine in Austin area. They were turning off the Wi-Fi in their house at night and were noticing that they and their children were all sleeping better. And I don't have Wi-Fi now, but when I did have Wi-Fi before, I started turning it off and I started noticing that I slept better. Just with that Wi-Fi not running through the house. So you can turn that off for the night and make sure that that's not running through your house here as much. But anyways, just different things to look at. Just bringing awareness on how you guys can work on getting better sleep if that's something that you need. Finish your last meal or snack 2 to 3 hours before you sleep. When you're sleeping, your body is doing a host of other things we just discussed. It is not digesting food. That's for during the day. So if you're trying to digest a meal when you go to bed, then it doesn't allow your body to do all those other things with the lymphatic system and the repairing and the building of tissues. So that's one of the reasons why in the IN.Form program, we aim to finish our last meal 2 to 3 hours before bedtime. Sleep 7 to 8 hours. It says no more and no less for optimal wellness. I don't really agree with this. I think everybody has their own sleep number, and I'm not talking about the sleep number bed. Okay? Your sleep number. How many hours you sleep that makes you feel good. Some of us are more and some of us are less. But I'm going to challenge each one of you this week to really kind of look at that and see what works best for you. I personally, if I get 8.5 hours, I am doing great. And I always have. I just had a lot of people over the years tell me that I was sleeping too much. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. You know, why do I feel good? Why am I cranky when I don't get my sleep, you know? So really look at that. Look at how many hours you need. And if you've determined that you need 8 hours, then make sure you set aside at least 9 hours to be in bed. So if you know you need 8 hours, set aside 9 hours to be in bed. So if you know you got to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, then you need to be going to bed at 9 o'clock at night, right? Right? Yep. See what I'm saying? That way you have enough time to relax and get into the groove. And if you go, oh, I gotta get up, I better run to the bathroom real quick. It gives you enough time, enough buffer time. So that way when you have to get up at 6 o'clock, you're not like, oh man, I just, I didn't get bed till late because I forgot to do this, forgot to do that type of thing. But at least tack on an extra hour there of what kind of a sleep number you need once you get that figured out. Any questions on sleeping? Anybody? Okay. All right. So on page number 73, we're going to talk about recipes for relaxation. Made from the aromatic essence of plants, essential oils have the power to cleanse the spirit and rejuvenate the mind. Now, essential oils are wonderful, wonderful at helping to evoke a response in the body, whether that's relaxation, whether it's invigoration, whether it's just, calming, whatever that may be. Essential oils go through the olfactory nervous system, and they go in and they communicate with the brain, and you get some kind of a response from that pending the type of essential oil you did or the blend that you did. Okay? Essential oils are wonderful, but they are not the cure-all. Essential oils are not food. We need to eat high quality foods, we need to take our supplements, and use essential oils to catapult you to that next level of health by addressing stress, mental, and emotional health. And that will help with that little diagram that we had up here a little bit earlier. Essential oils are very tricky also. There's a lot of room for adulteration in essential oils. A lot of companies out there will not use an authentic essential oil or blend or mix it with an inferior essential oil. So you do need to be really careful about the types of essential oils that you are using. And I can discuss that further with any of you that need more information on that if you do. But some of the tips and tricks with essential oils is you never ever want to store them in a plastic bottle. So like for instance, if you take a couple of the different singles and you want to blend them into something for a relaxation or an invigorating mist, you don't want to put it in plastic because it is an oil. Just like when we talked about oils in week number 5, we never store our oils in glass. So we want to make sure you're using a glass container. Another thing you want to do is if you do a bath, when you mix the oils with your bath, you use a figure 8 motion to effectively disperse the oil molecules in with the water. So use a figure 8 to help you with your bath and get that to mix right. You can also use a diffuser, such as what's behind you guys right there. The other thing you want to remember, you never ever want to add heat to essential oils. Heat changes the molecular structure, therefore you don't get the medicinal benefit you would get otherwise. So don't buy any diffusers or any kind of dispensers of essential oils that involve heat. All right?
What about a humidifier if it's cold?
If it's cold, you're fine.
If you wanted to do like a eucalyptus or something when you have.
Yes, yes, you can do that. There's also something called a nebulizing diffuser. I know you can get them all sorts of different places. Nature Sunshine carries one as well. And that really helps, and it just uses a straight oil only. It doesn't use water also like this diffuser does. This one back here we use water, a clean water, and we put the drops of oil in there, and then we let it disperse it out through the spout. But there's a nebulizing diffuser also where it just takes a direct essential oil, you plug just that bottle of essential oil in, and it basically uses a high pressure air that's not heated and pushes those molecules out into the air. And it's a little more direct. So there's lots of different ways you can do that. The other thing you can do is you can also use essential oils on your skin. Now I would highly recommend making sure you use some kind of a carrier oil or coconut oil to mix with the essential oil to make sure you're not going to have a skin reaction. A lot of people don't, but just to be safe. I had one with tea tree oil the very first time I tried tea tree oil, and it was no fun. I'm like, oh, that worked out well, let me do more. Let me do more. But literally burnt my skin. But I mean, it was doing its job also. It just was uncomfortable in the meantime. So make sure you're using some kind of massage oil or carrier oil if you're going to put it on. I like to use spritzers, where I get a little 2-ounce bottle and a little spray, and you can just spray it like spray the essential oil on your pillow. You can spray it in front of you and walk through it. You can spray it, just on your clothes. I like carrying one of those with me on occasion. In fact, when I had the store downtown Austin, I would make a lot of hot flash spray. I literally had a hot flash combination of essential oils that I would use, and I had sold a ton of it. Women would come in and purchase it, and we would keep it in the refrigerator, and then they had a hot flash, they would just walk through it, and it just helped cool them down immediately. So there's lots of different things you can do with essential oils. This right here is giving us an idea of some different things we can do. We can create a combination for restlessness, a combination for tiredness, indecision. You do want to be careful too with pregnancy and small children. So there are certain oils you do want to be careful with on that. I thought it was really cool, some of these essential oil combinations they have on here actually combine the flower essences also. So you can mix the flower essences with the essential oil to invoke whatever degree of response that you're looking for. I have a few of the essential oil blends that Nature Sunshine does. There's a core here, balancing one. Lemongrass, I love lemongrass. Refuge, which is one of my favorite ones. This is one of the ones that's coming out of there. This is a great calming blend. I keep that one in my desk when I'm working with school with the children. Not for them, for me. Although on occasion I will stick it in their nose and go, hey! It's okay if you don't know what 3 times 3 is. And there's also an Inspire blend also for uplifting. So if you guys want to smell any of those, you're sure more than welcome to. When you open these, a proper way to smell essential oils is to waft them just underneath your nose like this. And always be sure you put the lid on tight. If you don't put the lid on tight on essential oils, you will dissipate that oil. It will go into the air all by itself. So keep the lids on tight. Any questions on essential oils, folks? Cover my notes. I think we got it all. All right. So, of course, another stress reliever again is exercise. So if we aren't exercising, we may want to use exercise for stress. Yes, I said that right. I had to double check myself, right? But remember, stress is very, very helpful, or exercise is very, very helpful for stress also. Page number 76 of our In.Form participation manual. We're going to set our SMART goal for the week. Hopefully this will be something centered around stress and de-stressing. Also be sure to add, if you're working on water or protein, be sure to add that as well. Just be specific. For our homework, we're going to reread module number 9, which we just covered. We're going to create a regular bedtime routine an hour before we sleep. We're going to aim to find our sleep number and find out how many hours is best for us when we get our sleep. And we may even consider trying nature's cortisol formula, essential oils, or Nutri-Calm to help us address stress as well. So those are our goals for the week. Next week, we get to talk about hormones and the glandular system and how they affect our body and our health as well. So we'll have a lot of really intense information next week, since we'll all get to learn a little bit more than we probably already know about hormones. And of course tonight, like I said, I'm going to make a mango smoothie. And then we'll be done for the night. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.